Huh.
Yeah.
Good job. Fire lights and smoking nights and splashes of dripping paint. Jazz explosions and constant commotions. Leave it to Beaver, this ain't. Give me your befuddled masses, your rejection slips, pink slips, verbal slips, all. Knock down the gates, throw open the bars, the pranksters are having a ball. Teach me, show me, let me in. Challenge me, push me, help me win. Athletes have their team, and suits can wear the firm. But the writing arts keeps you home alone, and the stables is where you turn. Solo suffering totally blows. So into the sea we dive, searching for souls who swim like you and act at least vaguely alive. With deep sea whales you plunge the depths, with freshwater poets you school. With coral reefers, you spark the sea, drinking in dreams from the pool. Boy, what an enthusiastic crowd for noon. So welcome to Wonderland 2.0. Well, and thank you to everyone who made it the first time, who then, that was the first layer of growth, the first ring on the tree, and now we've got another one, and this is going to be a redwood before we're done with this. And I want to throw it, he's never in the room at the right time, but the Wizard of Wonder always misses his tributes. And this is another one, so where's the camera? Wiz, this is for you and everything you have done to create this world that all of us have come to dance in. And I said, he's like the best GM of a sports team you could ever have. If this guy can spot talent, recruit it, and get it on the team, and create this world that we're all living in. And so I'm glad to be playing on that team. Is the red light on that thing? Is it recording?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, and I want to throw in something to, there is a whole ton of Canadians in the house. Miss Anonymous has graced us all the way from Calgary, California. And obviously we all, we're attracted to each other because we've got Gubba and Uncle Mike at the same table. And then right next to I see David Stewart right there. And in the back of the house, we got Colby O'Neill, the filmmaker. And somewhere in this madness is Patty Cake and stage left, right down there.
Right here, your stage.
His audience left. And a very cool thing that's also happened with this is when I went to Bear's Picnic last year, I fell in with this crew, the Lucky Dawgz. And I was like, I recognize this scene. And those guys and girls are doing something that's an exact mirror through the looking glass of what us pranksters have been up to. And I was like, I gotta get our two families together.
And you did!
And so there's about 4 of them here who've traveled from like Virginia, far Pennsylvania, Illinois. I think there's old Bear is sitting up there, and Miles is here somewhere, and Karen and Linda. So pranksters, embrace and welcome this other family. Because they're the pioneers of the dogs. I like to call it the happy pranksters and the lucky dogs. And we're starting to move our, oh, there's Miles. We're starting to, they're the first ones to kind of dip their toe in the Kool-Aid here. And There'll be more coming, and then we'll get their scenes, and we'll have a whole hell of a family.
Nice.
All right. So there's some of that. All right, here's another one here. Jack and John and Jerry and Jimmy and Jim and Janice and Juliet and Josephine and Jesus and Jackie and Jefferson, Johnson, Jackson and Jones and James and Joyce and Jolson and Jessel and Judy and Johnny and Julie and Jen and Jesse and Josie and Jules and Jan and jackknifes and jackpots and jailbaits and Johns and jackasses, juveniles, journalists and jurists and jealousy and junk bond and jewelry and junk and journeys and jingles and jammin' and joy. Perfect this time of year. Gonna ring a big ding, calling out from Sing Sing. Gonna have a spring fling, kinda have an inkling. Everything is gonna sell, coming out the dripping well. Middle East of burning hell, clanging morning warning bell. The toast is up, the jam is done. Twisted people think it's fun, blowing neighbors with a gun. Sneaky, creepy, bang, bang, run. B for bombing, N be labor, S for slitting with a saber. I don't know, but love thy neighbor seems to me was from your labor. Jumping Jesus, what went wrong? Rodney King says get along. Lennon leaves us with a song. Bernie does it with a bong. The Dalai Lama makes the case, and Jerry did it out of space. Alicia's singing Soul's new face. But best of all is the wizard's place. I'll tell you why. It's 'cause we're here. It's live. It's now. You have a beer. Top me up with living cheer. I'm Sergeant Pepper, feeling gear. We're water, water everywhere. Make us grow and make it better. Water, water everywhere. Take the dry and make them wetter. Spring is here. I smell the bloomin'. Many minds in indie zoomin'. Trippin' like you're mushy shroomin'. Honest like you're Harry Truman. Shootin' wicked witches broomin'. Martin Luther King exhumin'. Everybody here's a crewman. Take your soul and keep on grooming. Spike the spirit. Keep on zooming. All it takes is being human. No doubt this is the most enthusiastic noon crowd I have ever had. Jack, a little bit of Jack.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jack.
The man of the hour. So, another guy you may have heard of, one Jerry Garcia.
Oh, yeah.
He was a bit of a fan. And in 1989, Rhino Records put out a re-release of Kerouac's records. And Dennis McNally, somebody know who Dennis McNally is? The Dead? Wrote the book? Oh, not many. But anyway, he got hired to be the Dead's publicist because he wrote such a great book on Jack Kerouac. So, and so he got Jerry to write something along as one amazing tribute to Kerouac. And here's a little excerpt of it. So here's Jerry on Jack. So you might want to hear it. A germinal moment for me was back when I was going to the San Francisco Art Institute on the weekends. And the words Beat Generation first began hitting the papers. We asked our teacher, the great Wally Hedrick, rest in peace, what a guy, about it, and he said, well, there's this book, On the Road. It's all in there. Then over the next couple of years, I read Kerouac, and I remember in 1959 hanging out with a friend who had a Kerouac record. I read him, but I hadn't heard it. The cadences, the flow, the kind of endlessness of the prose, the way it just poured off. It was really stunning to me. His way of perceiving music The way he wrote about music and America and the romance of the American highway, it struck a primal chord. It felt familiar, like something I wanted to join in. But it wasn't a club, it was a way of seeing. It became so much a part of me that it's hard to measure. I can't separate who I am now from what I got from Kerouac. I don't know if I would ever have had the courage or the vision to do something outside with my life, or even suspected the possibilities existed if it weren't for Kerouac opening those doors.
Whoa!
Jerry
Good
Garcia.
word.
Okay, so one of the biggest things Jack did was break open the whole form of novel writing, which included the scroll that he wrote on, which he did because in the old days of typewriters, you would type, and then when the page would get to an end, you had to take that out and put in this other one, and it totally broke the flow. So he took these 12-foot-long strips of paper and taped them together and fed them in so he could just keep flowing uninterrupted. And Allen Ginsberg, being the guy he was, always thinking of history and getting things done, asked Jack shortly after this to write down how the heck you do this. So Jack wrote what he called the list of essentials for spontaneous prose. And so here's how he, in about 1952, advised us, still here in the 21st century, to approach art. Scribbled secret notebooks with wild typewritten pages for your own joy. Submissive to everything, open, listening. Try never to get drunk outside of your own house. Be in love with your life. Something that you feel will find its own form. Blow as deep as you want to blow. Write what you want bottomless from bottom of the mind. Write the unspeakable visions of the individual. No time for poetry, but exactly what is. Entranced fixation, dreaming upon object before you. Remove literary, grammatical, and syntactical inhibitions. Like Proust, be an old tea-head of time. Tell the story of the world in interior monologue. The jewel center of interest is the eye within the eye. Write a reflection, and write in recollection and amazement for yourself. Work from pithy middle eye out, swimming in language sea. It's a tough one. Accept loss forever. Believe in the holy contour of life. Struggle to sketch the flow that already exists intact in your mind. Don't think of words when you stop, but see the picture better. Write for the world to read and see your exact pictures of it. Compose wild, undisciplined, pure, coming in from under, crazier the better. You're a genius all the time.
Whoa!
I don't know, a few minutes.
Let's hear it for Brian Hassett.
Trying to give you the hook!
Okay, I just came across this one of the first stories I ever had published way back when, early 80s. And I hadn't seen it or read it in a long time, just found it somewhere, and I was like, this fits a lot of the themes that we're living here and all weekend, that my writing and Jack's writing reflected. Sorry. I'm being an old tea out of time. I get caught
Don't you ever apologize for drinking beer!
That was my Canadian coming through for me.
Sacrilege, right there.
So anyway, this is this wild story. It was published in the Minetta Literary Review, and like I say, it's a road, pranksters, adventure, all sorts of stuff. And I've never read it in public or anything, so. And that's the thing about pranksters is, you know, breaking the mold and doing things you never did before. I think that's kind of the point this weekend. So here's this old dirty piece that is perfectly reflective of what we're all about. Very short, 2 pages. It's called Harmony. I picked him up hitchhiking on a sunny summer afternoon on the Trans-Canada Highway. He jumped in beside me like we were old friends and said, "Good morning." He glanced over at me real quick with a wide, happy grin, then stared straight down the road in seemingly eager anticipation of the scenes ahead. I sat motionless, a little confused over this person who suddenly popped out of nowhere and was now sitting beside me in the front seat. I think I swallowed and shook my head a second before accelerating. I can't really remember. Anyway, we were off. And he sat perched forward on the seat, his face close to the windshield, his hands under his thighs. "How you doing?" I offered with a smile, not really knowing what else to say. "Good, good. Did you see that full moon last night?" I started to say that I had, but he was off. "What a beauty. Full moons are great, eh? Things really fly under them. Had this great night out by the stream at this closed down ski resort back there, Holiday Mountain. You ever been there?" In mid-breath, he had paused and looked over at me for an answer. I was caught a little off guard by this speedy request for input. I couldn't think for a moment whether I had been there or not. And he started right up again, though. "You know, full moons are so important. I watch out for them because, you know, a hot spell is coming up. You notice how things just happen a lot more when there's a full moon? Everyone's energy is higher. It's great. And once you notice its positive effects and you can accent them, like just now, I just stepped out on the highway 3 minutes before you stopped. Like, hitchhiking's better when it's full, business, relationships, man, just everything is better when it's full. I bet you even get better gas mileage." And he turned and smiled, but only paused for a single quarter note. "Yeah, these old Parisiennes are great, eh? They still look great. What year is it, 70? 69. Yo, yeah. Great cars. And pretty flat roads, too, eh? So smooth for driving. And that's something else that's better around full moons, too. Driving becomes great. Just one's working relationships with machines in general is enhanced. You know, it's like an all-round peaking time. Sometimes you're thinking things are going so good and you look up and say, I'll bet it's a full moon. And it is. It's great. I stayed up all night writing in my log. They're really important, don't you think? Been keeping one for years. It's a chance to get everything down. If you're living really fast, you have to have some recording of it or it'll all become a blur. You always think of publishing it, but you know you never will. Who'd want to read somebody else's log anyway? Did you ever keep one? And he actually paused and seemed like he was going to wait for an answer. He seemed serious. In fact, he was serious the whole time, just always smiling. Sound familiar? I told him that I kept one years ago and that it was really good. Funny stories of days I'd never see again. But my exchange was slow and had slowed the tempo of the conversation down. The scenery even seemed to be going by slower. As this thought hit, just for a second, a beat, I paused. And he jumped right back in, picks things right up. Yeah, I stayed up all night writing in mine under the moonlight. That's a very spiritual way to write. No way can you lie or write anything less than positive with that big holy spotlight watching you. And he started going off on how the moon represented the cycles of nature and didn't I agree, and the whole life is a circle concept, etc. And I was beginning to see the game. He flowed along, talking a melody. And if anyone wanted to talk a harmony to it, they could jump right in. I tried but wasn't fast enough, so he picked it up again. He was still talking about how he was a night owl and stayed up all night writing. Yeah, I've always been a bit of an insomniac, he said, but I feel good about it. A lot of famous people were insomniacs, you know? Robert Louis Stevenson, Sigmund Freud, Benjamin Franklin. And I figure if all those people stay up late at night and come up with world-altering ideas and things, it can't be all that bad. And they say some of the best ideas come after midnight. There's nothing wrong with staying up all night, eh? Hey! Preaching to the choir here.
Rock and roll!
Or taking little cat naps all the time. Actually, that way you get to see the whole day because you're never really sleeping more than a couple hours at a time. Mornings are best, and seeing them definitely gives you a whole clearer perspective on the day. But if you're up all night, you might already have whole new perspectives on the world and people. Trick is, I guess, to be up all night and all morning. That's a good idea. The best time to sleep really is about, like, I don't know, 5 in the afternoon till 9 or 10 at night.
Bring it on.
Yeah, catch a few hours there and maybe a couple hours someplace else, and you get to have the whole day, you know? The morning, the night, and the day's business hours. Another quarter note pause, and I was in on the downbeat. Yeah, it's funny that there's that connection with that one on the road and insomnia, like with truck drivers and crazy tourists planning on driving all night to get to wherever the hell they're going. I had an aunt once who stayed up all night, all the time. She's the best aunt I ever had. Lived with the windows open all year round. Lived to be like 88 or something. And I was off telling him about the wonderful things my aunt had done, and all the time he was nodding in agreement and bouncing his head to the beat with a big smile on his face. Then he came in with tales of his aunt, and we talked on every subject from the full moon's importance to lovers we seemed to have had in common. He was a jukebox that never stopped spitting out the hits. You could jump in any time and change the name of the tune, but never the tempo. He was a gold mine of past summer favorites and new tunes you'd never heard before. He jarred something familiar from the protected hiding places of old memories and made it live again. I took him a few hundred miles to a truck stop near Moose Jaw, but somehow he had taken me a whole lot further. I had a request for this, so I thought, there you go. This is from the book. Oh, yeah.
You know that we make time?
We're laughing here.
Okay, yeah, somebody was asking for this. So here's the Hitchhiker's Guide to Jerry Garcia's favorite writer. Okay, now, this is the part I read last year. A bunch of you weren't here, or you won't remember it, or I'll read it differently, or something. But it's the appropriate part, because it's where I finally got to Kesey's farm in Oregon, and got to see the bus for the first time in 1982. You know, the whole thing that inspired this whole thing. So it makes sense to share that little magic moment with you for my encore. Finally, I was here. After reading about it so many years ago, gotta be at least 5 by now, which was a quarter of my life ago at that point. Here I was at last, one-on-one with the psychedelic magic carpet. It was like Stonehenge or the Great Pyramid or something, this giant man-made creation outdoors, with some intangible, magnetic, mystical, mythical, reverential presence. And yes, damn it, it does look alive. It is alive. The windshield for eyes, the front grille for the nose, the fat bumpers or the smiling cheeks, the mirrors, the ears, and it's wearing a round white cap on its head. Or maybe it's bald, I don't know. But it's definitely a person. So of course the first thing I do is climb inside to see Neil's wheel. If only we had his 49 Hudson to put next to it, or maybe the Travel Bureau Cadillac. But until then, this is the only wheel we know of that transgenerational driver ever worked. Maybe this wasn't a church, but I'm not going to say it wasn't a shrine. There was something sacred, spiritual, transportive, and weird about being in the Holy Goose cockpit. This Cody Pomeray of the next generation. This muse for two masters. And it was funny how the thing was paint covered from stem to stern, just like the graffitied New York subways I rode every day. Every square inch covered in some crazy color. In fact, layers and layers of crazy colors. And I began hearing Keith Moon's claves bringing Magic Bus into the soundtrack, as the Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour began screening right there in the front window. I looked out the side window and God, there was the Partridge Family driving by saying, "Come on, get happy." I saw the school bus that delivers the cast of Jesus Christ Superstar into the desert in the opening of that cinematic masterpiece. And there was the Green Tortoise pulling out of San Francisco for New York. And suddenly I flashed on my own old school bus trip across the country in 1978 with a bunch of Winnipeg musicians and pranksters. And how all of that and so much more was inspired by this exact terrestrial spaceship I was standing inside. I'm on the bus. I couldn't believe I was here. Then I started thinking, nobody else will either. I had to get a picture somehow. Aha, a mirror, yes, the only shot. The whole shot, the Gregory shot. But the inside rear view was already gone. So I went back outside and began to twist, petrifiedly, carefully, slowly, so slowly. Could you imagine? Yikes, Neil's ancient, delicate driver's side mirror. So I could get my frame to fit perfectly in its. And I started thinking about all the lessons I'd internalized from Kesey and that book about him, as he coyly refers to electric Kool-Aid acid test. And having just seen him on TV a few months ago goofing with Garcia on that goofy Tom Snyder show, you trade off. And reading every interview or article on him in Rolling Stone and anywhere else I found, and how my time with him these past 2 weeks had reinforced every preconceived great notion and then some. And about how every event I produced since I was about 16 years old was inspired by the acid tests. How my whole life had been a way of recreating that group spirit of collaborative, unrestrained fun. And how he taught me it was okay to go beyond what you were scared of. Not only going through the door, but playing when you were on the other side. The openness of possibility. Embracing the goodness in everyone you meet. Engaging them, playing with them, pranking with them. Tootling the multitudes all road long. And that there was a responsibility that came with the gift of magic. If you got the cosmic giggle, and could see the golden light, let alone knew how to dance in it, it was incumbent upon you to share it with as many people as you could. Not everyone sees the grand prank of life, and it's our job to shine the light in the strangest of places for people to look at it right. And if you get it, you have to grab it, share it, push it a little bit further than it's gone before. You have to lead. That's what Kesey taught me, leading, inclusion, on the bus, which is a bigger concept than on the road. This was about all of us, not just some of us. Jack writ the road, but this is the road writ large. And it's our duty to ride on and drive that bus further.